I know, right? Okay, here we go. Okay, thank you.
Welcome to the Wilma. Welcome to the Wilma virtually, to the people watching on the live stream. I'm Lee Goldenberg. I'm the managing director here at the Wilma. I just wanted to thank you all so much for coming. A couple of quick additional thanks to TCG Books, our partner in presenting this event, and Broad Street Review, our media partner. Beautiful collaboration. And we're going to do some chatting with these folks. You'll have a chance to ask questions. You'll have a chance to get your book signed. And that's pretty much the rundown for the night. And then we have a laid-back summer before we do Fat Ham in the fall. I'm going to turn it over to my lovely colleague, Lindsay Smiling, to introduce these folks.
Hey, everybody. Wow, look at this group of people. This is amazing. I'm Lindsay Smiling. I am the incoming co-artistic director of the Wilma. Thank you. I am thrilled about this night. Over the pandemic, we did this crazy thing and made this digital production of Fat Ham because it was scheduled to be in our season. And working on this play was just amazing. I was like, this play's going to take off. And I was sending it to everybody, and it has. And so I'm so glad to have James back in the room to talk about his play. We're both Temple grads. And then I'm James Ijames here. In case you didn't know, James Ijames is both Fat Ham. So he wrote this book.
I didn't know it was on.
And I'm also thrilled because Amina Robinson is going to be directing Fat Ham, who is also a Temple alum, my classmate. We did so many shows together, so this is kind of the first time we've reunited since grad school. And I'll be acting again in Amina's direction, under Amina's direction. And then later on, we're going to also do a little reading. Anthony Martinez-Briggs, Hot House member, is going to do a reading of one of the monologues from Fat Ham, just to have some more questions for everybody. So without further ado, I'll let you all take it off.
Great. Hi, everyone. I just want to start with saying I'm so excited with James. I met James many moons ago at Temple University, and I just feel very honored to be sitting in this space with you with all of your accomplishments up to this date, So I'll start by saying first, congrats on winning the Pulitzer Prize for and then congrats on the 5 Tony nominations for this year, including Best Play. And also, congrats on the release of this published copy of your play. It's too much. So I just feel really great to be the person sitting here to have a conversation with you. I wrote down some questions.
Okay, I'm ready.
Do I need to talk?
Prepared. Okay, I'm good. Okay, good.
Yes. So you've been all over the place. How does it feel bringing this show back home to Philly and to the Wilma?
It feels good. I think I have always had a theater in my imagination when I'm writing a play, like an actual stage, and it's this stage. And I don't know why that happened. I think I saw something early on in my time here that just was like, that's the kind of space that I want to make theater in. It's big. It's a democratic audience. There's no freaking aisle in the middle. Like you're in. This is it. We're doing it. We're off we go.
Yes.
And I just really love that about the space. So that feels really good. And that it's coming back to the company of actors that it originated with. And that feels really special to see those performances that were so beautiful in the film in 3D, in space. I really can't wait. Because they didn't get the opportunity of what it's like to have an audience respond to the play. Like they did it in you know, in a bubble, literally. And so I'm excited for them to have that experience. And you know, it's home. You know, Philly is, I will have been in Philly 20 years next month.
Wow. Wow.
So like, it is actually where I'm from
Yeah.
now.
To follow up with that, then what are some of the other ways that the Philly theater community, the artists that are here, you spoke about the space being in your mind about the Wilma, but what is it about the Philly theater community that influences you or inspires you as a playwright?
So when I got out of Temple, it was sort of like what felt like the apex of the physical theater, clown-based, devised work in Philadelphia. You know, Pig Iron was just like incredible. New Paradise Laboratories, all of these companies that were doing plays that asked a lot of the performer. And I wanted to write things that aspired to that, like required that of the performer, required that of the production. And so that had a really, indelible impact on me, is seeing that brave, bold, daring work right out of school, where I'd been learning about iambic pentameters and like Alexander technique, and to see just these performances that were kind of wild and imaginative and emergent, just stuck with me. And then when I started knowing enough people and I could like get invited to see plays because I couldn't afford tickets, so I'd like, crash an opening or something. This was one of the places.
The struggle years.
The struggle years. Coming to see stuff here. I remember I tell the story about seeing Scorched all the time, but that play really rocked my understanding of what you could do with stagecraft, and like how much an audience can fill in the blanks of what's on stage. So like audiences are so smart, so savvy, and they come in with this agreement. Like they say, I am going to believe the thing that is happening in front of me is real. So that gives the people who are making the theater incredible power, because then we can put any number of things in front of people and they'll go on the ride with us. And this was a theater that took that seriously.
Yeah.
I saw things that were brilliant and wonderful. I saw things that were not very successful, but were brilliant and wonderful. And I think that's also one of the things about this theater and this theater community, is that it's not afraid of failure. And the thing that you have to have in theater making is doing something that doesn't always hit the mark, because then you learn from that, and then the next time you do it slightly differently. And so it was the place where I learned how to be an artist was Philly. And it's also a place that welcomed messiness.
Yes.
And as a playwright, I'm completely self-taught. My training is in acting, and so I learned how to write plays from being in plays and watching plays, and I did that mostly in this city.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. What you call messiness, I call, when I read your work, that you actually allow the audience to be an intelligent participant in the piece on stage, as opposed to spoon feeding how we should feel and think about things, So you call it messiness. I call it genius. All right, so let's see. What's next here on my paper of questions?
Into the microphone? You know what? I'm just going to do this. Is this okay? Is it on? Is it on?
How's that? That's good? Okay.
That sounds good. Is that better? Okay, good.
Okay.
Is it still quiet? I used to rehearse my lines.
He's singing.
No? Okay. Sorry.
So I'll pass this to you as soon as.
Okay, great.
So I'll move to this next question. Why Fat Ham? Why Hamlet? What was the source of inspiration for this piece? How did it sort of come about?
So I did that is better, yes. I did a student-directed production of Hamlet in college. I went to Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. Yes, Morehouse man, who offers a degree in theater but no classes. So you have to go to every other university in Atlanta to get your degree. And I took a bunch of classes at Spelman, and one of the classes that I took was, I was in an acting class there, and a student that was directing a student-directed production of Hamlet was like, do you want to be in this? And I was like, I don't know what Hamlet is, but okay. And I read it and I was like, wow, this is, I connect with this guy. He's an outsider. He's like, I totally understand why he's pissed off at everybody, but also like, wow, friend, like maybe don't go so hard. Like this is a lot. And it just stayed with me. I just thought about it. And then maybe about 7 or 8 years ago, I was like, I think I want to like mess around with a Shakespeare, but I didn't know which one. And then I just started rereading Hamlet. And then I just started watching every version of Hamlet I could get my hands on. And there are so many versions of Hamlet, from films to like made for TV movies to PBS productions to YouTube videos of whole productions of Hamlet in German. I watched all of that. And then I just sat down to write it, and I wanted to bring it as close to my lived experience. And yeah, I mean, it just sort of like came out, and like I discovered along the way how the plot points I wanted to use in Hamlet wouldn't translate to a backyard. So, you know, players become charades. You know, what a piece of work is man is not where it exists in the actual Hamlet. I've made it a speech that Juicy is giving about like having a crush on somebody, and it's like, he's so weird. Why won't he do what he's supposed to? You know, and that's kind of how it happened. It just sort of made sense. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
As a follow-up to that, how can you give us a little insight into your creative process? Like, where do you start? How do you sit down and just start writing, and the character? I've heard playwrights describe like characters speaking to them, or you know, what's your process like? A little backstage pass for us all here.
This play is tricky because when I started working on this, it was around the same time that I started doing a little bit of like TV writing, and that world is the outline is God. You outline everything. And I wasn't a playwright that outlined. So this is the first play that I actually sat down and was like, okay, what do I need things to be? But usually I say that the first scene that I write in most plays is the second or third scene. It's never the first scene. I always kind of know where, like, this is where the shit starts to happen. Can I say shit on the live stream? It's okay, great. I like to write first, and then I go back and say, okay, what do we need to get to that? Yeah. And then the rest of it is kind of gravy. And then, you know, I've made it not really a mission, but like a goal of mine that I don't write things that have bad endings, so that they have happy endings. Yeah. You have to earn a happy ending. You do. You really have. Like, we are not a culture that wants to see people be happy. Do I mean that? Yes, I mean that. So you really do have to like earn it. And so that's just another hard task of the writer. But like usually, I always say, if I can get to 30 pages, I know that I have a play. Okay. And I took this page out of, not August Wilson, although I took a lot of pages out of August Wilson's book. But Arthur Miller's plays start immediately. Like the Crucible starts instantly. It's like, is she okay? Get out of here. Like, those are the first two lines of that play. I'm butchering them, but those are the first two lines of that play, is that they're in panic immediately. And then you go, well, where do we go from there? So I try to start things that feel really hot. I want things to feel very hot very early. Because then you got people, you got them. They won't want to leave. Yeah. And I still believe that one of the jobs of the theater maker is to make sure that people don't get up and leave. Well, I mean, it's not our only job. Yeah. But like, it is a part of our job is to compel people to stay present. And that's really much more difficult to do than we think because the world has changed so much.
Yeah. Great. I think is now the time for the video break. Yeah.
Oh, we got a video?
We have a video to show you. It is a snippet from the movie version of Fat Ham that was shot during the pandemic. They'd like to share that with you right now today.
Where was that? Where was it shot at?
Sacklerville, Virginia. Sacklerville. Ooh. Sorry. Yikes. Schuylerville, Virginia. Because it was too cold in Pennsylvania to do it.
In a home or?
It was an Airbnb that we rented out. We got like 4 of them, right? And the cast and the Pat was there, just all in a house together, eating dinner together, doing COVID tests every day, probably drinking a lot of wine, and then shooting. Morgan Green directed it, the original production of it, and Morgan is a filmmaker as well as a theater director. Did it in these like long takes. Like I think this film is 4. Is it 4 long takes? It's as live as a thing on film can be. But we're gonna watch it. Go ahead.
Play games in the barbecue?
Oh, I think that sounds like a good idea.
I don't.
What you want to play, baby?
You know I love a party game now. I don't. Charades.
Ooh, woo.
Really?
I think it sounds like fun.
Listen, I dominate at charades.
Come on, Red. Let's play.
Never played charades?
Yes, you have.
Where?
We used to play all the time. All right, everybody, come on. Write down the name of a TV show, a movie, or a book.
What they read.
Come on, man.
A good book indeed.
Oh, okay. Good book is good.
This dress.
I have heard that guilty creatures sitting at a play have by the very cunning of the scene struck so to the soul that presently they have proclaimed their malefactions. For murder, though, if have no tongue will speak with most miraculous organ. I'll have these players play something like the murder of my father before my uncle. I'll observe his looks, I'll tempt him to the quick, and if he do blench, I know my course. Spirit I have seen may be the devil, and the devil have the power to assume some fleeting shape, yeah, and perhaps out of my weakness and my melancholy, as he's very potent with such spirits, abuses me, damn me. I'll have grounds more relative than this. The play's the thing where I now catch the conscience of the king. Cook.
You weird, Juicy. You never feel caught? Well, don't analyze me. You the caught one.
I don't know what to do.
You could leave. Just run away.
Nah, I don't leave my mama.
You can become more like him. You can get cold and hard and mean. Deadly.
I don't think I can do that.
That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna become so mean and brutal and awful that you won't be able to recognize it's me no more. I'm gonna become the opposite of what I've been. New.
Don't do that.
I don't got that many options. At least then I get to just be myself, you know?
Yeah. What would be the opposite of me?
You could stand to be more honest.
Ooh. You just had that? You didn't have to think about that. That was just there?
I always think you more complex than you actually are.
Yeah.
What he thinks is your weakness gonna save you, Juicy.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know that?
Trial and error. All right, who's going first?
We gotta pick teams first.
Well, how about the boys against the girls?
Some bullshit.
How about the old people versus the young people? Who you calling old? I'm old, you old. You act like an old person by overreacting to being called old. All right. Let's say the elders. How's that right? Against the young. This is lovely. Juicy. Guess Rick James' birthday.
Why?
To determine who goes first.
April 12th?
Ready.
February 1st.
That is exactly right.
I know everything about Rick James. I
There's a
live
story
and
about
breathe Rick
this.
James.
Alright, that means our team goes first.
About that tradition. Yeah.
Alright. Oh, ready. Alright.
No talking.
Why she gotta
Movie.
try to change?
Three words.
3 words.
First word.
Leaping.
It's changed.
Hip Hop Parade.
That's not a movie. Jump. Shoot jumper. Jumping.
Jumping Jack Flash.
Yes.
What else?
It is fun, Red. Okay, young, it's your turn.
Oh, well, I'm not good at the acting part. I'm better at the guessing.
Y'all gotta go. You might as well get this ass whooping over with.
Come on now.
Lindsay is
Lindsay
red.
out of control.
Something special to be on. Ooh, he had me quiet.
Who put a book in there? Movies, TV shows, and celebrities. Oh, 5 words. Not getting excited.
4th word.
Cabbage Patch. Batter, Vixen,
Okay.
Chef. Third word. Air traffic controller.
Stabbing.
Kill.
Second word.
Old man.
Uncle?
Pitmaster.
Preacher. Preacher to the cook.
Yes.
Big Gutsy. I'm done playing, y'all. Excuse me.
No, man, don't go.
I'm done playing.
What the heck is a party? Juicy, what did you do?
What you talking about?
Is that a reasonable?
I don't know.
Let me go check on him.
You want to share that story?
What?
You want to share that story?
Oh, so the Rick James thing. My husband loves to play like games, like party games and stuff, like Ticket to Ride, dice, the whole nine. And so to determine who goes first, he asked, "What's the birthday of a prominent person?" So like, what's Marie Antoinette's birthday? And then we look it up and like whoever guesses the closest to it gets to go first. And so I put these love notes to people in the plays
I love
that only they will get, but other people might be like, why is that the way that is done?
When is Rick James's birthday? That's good. It's really good. Great. So you have in fact, written a hilarious group of really relatable characters. Personally, when I read it, I found my cousins, my uncles, my aunties on those pages. Very relatable, real characters. The character of Juicy in particular, our Hamlet in the story, is an example of one of these really nuanced characters that you have written. What life experiences or any ideas or thoughts help shape some of the traits that you have written in the character of Juicy?
I mean, I grew up gay in a small town, and it was not fun. It was not great. And I have a nephew who has come of age and is gay in a small town. And there's this thing you have to develop to survive. You sort of become able to like be whatever people need you to be at any given moment, which I'm sure everybody has to deal with to a certain extent, but it's like really awkward when it's about like who you're attracted to. And so that just like instantly felt really good to put into this character, that he, you know, he has these sort of aspirations that you feel like are striving outside of where he is, and his family is very much stuck in a like place. Like they're very much like set in their ways, but you can see that they like his mom doesn't have always the best language to talk to him about what he's going through, but she tries. And that has always been my experience too, that it's not, you know, I grew up in a family that very religious, very loving, very curious people, but they didn't expect to have anybody that was gay. And then all of a sudden there were like a bunch of us like, hey, because the world changed. And like, I think that was seeing that progression in my family was something that I wanted to depict, because they all handled it really differently, but none of them handled it in the way that I had seen in TV and in movies. Like nobody was like, don't ever talk to me again. There were many people that were like, you sure? And like a lot of what that was coming from, it's like, well, you already Black. You want to like do another thing? Like you want to add another thing that you got to like, you know, maneuver through the world with. And I was like, not adding it. It's always been here. I'm friends. But like, I think that was a big impulse for, you know, particularly with my mom, who was so lovely about it, but I could tell was just sort of like, I don't know what to do with that. Like, I don't actually know how to talk to you about that. And I'm like, of course you don't. Like, it's not something that you necessarily should know how to talk to me about. But she never treated me any differently. She was always so loving. And so I wanted to capture that thing that happens, or that I felt happened with my mom, of like, okay, that thing you just said, maybe not that. Like, let's not use that language. Like, oh, right. Okay, great. Okay, great. I know now. I'll avoid that. And everyone in my family sort of took that journey. And I see them continuing to take that journey with like my nephew, who is like, I'm gay, but he's like gay, like in stained glass. Like he is, do you know what I'm talking about? Like he is so intensely certain, clear. I just didn't have that at that age. Like I was just like, okay, this thing I know is true, but I don't want anyone to know. And he's like, yes, this is who I am. It's just like very different. And so my family is having to like meet that. And I'm almost quaint and provincial compared to, you know, what's going on with my nephews. And they're incredible, you know.
Yeah, this is that actually is a great segue. So I'd like to share something with you all, because as like a sort of precursor to this next question, this is something that was sent to me, and I'm sharing it with permission of the person who sent it, but I'm going to share it anonymously. This is a piece from a letter that I received from someone who had encountered James's play. I am a Black, queer, thick/plus size kid with an affinity for the poetics, or how my mama would say, the dramatics. And even more to that, what I'm discovering about myself, always knew about myself, and the essence of my being is that I'm also a soft, sensitive, loving, big-hearted boy who loves his mama, his daddy, a home-cooked meal, and to laugh real loud. And you might be reading this and are like, okay. But I say all this to thank you for capturing such a person as this in Fat Ham, who I could look to and feel fully seen in multiple dimensions of myself. This play ignited such a deep movement within me that it is beyond words. So, and this is akin to a response that you get a lot since this play. Your decision to bring Juicy to life on stage is providing representation to an entire section of our population who has been all but ignored in our art. What do you think about, and how do you feel hearing and knowing the impact that this play is having in relation to that?
I'm speechless. You know, I listen to that and I go, wow. I'm happy. I'm glad that it is resonating with people in that way. But I don't know, like I think I've always been really interested in, I'm always like trying to write characters that I don't see very often. And Juicy is one of those characters. And I think it's because I worked a long time as an actor, never playing characters that were anything like me, for the most part. And so I wanted to put some things in the world that people who I feel like are often shut out of what goes on stage could see themselves in. I wanted to require of a theater that you have to cast a plus size actor in this part. Like that's not a thing you can kind of skirt around because it's on the text. It's in the play. And to avoid that, you have to like remove part of the play to do that. I think at our best, playwrights are trying to sort of create community around a set of ideas. And one of the ideas that I'm interested in always in my writing is who gets to tell the stories, who gets to be center of the canon, who gets to be the hero. You know, we think of Hamlet as a character in sort of the English-speaking dramatic canon as like this great role. And I can probably count on one hand the number of times I've seen someone that looks like me play that part on stage. Like there's a few movies and stuff, but for the most part, it is like really reserved for a certain kind of person. And going back to reading that play in college, I was like, I understand this guy. I know why he's feeling this way. And yet it was never something that I felt like I had access to. So this gives those actors access to it. You know, I'm working on another play at the Public right now called Him. And at the center of that play is a Black trans gospel singer in the 1930s and 40s. It's based on a real person, Wilma Broadnax. He was really important in quartet gospel music. And his gender was affirmed by his family at a very young age. And he had a spectacular, stellar career as a gospel singer. And that requires a theater, the Public in this moment, to find an actor that fits that. And so that means that person, that experience, that space is reserved for that experience on their stage. And that's like really important to me. And I think for the most part with everything, I can probably point to a type of character in most things that I've written where I'm like, yeah, I've never encountered a character like that before on stage. So it touches me. It means that the things that I've been trying to do are actually happening. And that feels good.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. I tend to find that the act of creating something lends and extends itself to teaching the artist and the creator a lesson in return. What are some of those lessons, if any, that you can share with us that the process of Fat Ham has brought to you?
That humor is galvanizing. Laughter assembles people. because it's
Indeed.
contagious. Yeah, it's
Indeed.
contagious when someone
Indeed.
laughs. You even laugh when you don't know why it's funny.
Yeah.
Sometimes, so it enlists people, and it's really powerful when executed well. Anybody can see themselves in the story of someone else's experience if you let them in.
I love that.
And so, like, Fat Ham is a really Black play.
Very.
Like, there's stuff in there that, like, when we were working on it, like, Oscar Eustace was like, I don't know. I was like, I do. Trust me, it's gonna kill, and it did. You know, like but it's because the way, particularly, the film version did this really beautifully because we were all at home and we were watching it, and so it was this individual experience. But when we got to the public and we were doing it in real space, I was like, just trust that everybody is invited. Like the invitation was so strong. And I think that's the thing I miss so much from theater sometimes is what is the invitation to me as an audience member to step into this world. I learned that the Shakespeare plays are not as holy as I was taught.
Hey, yeah.
And like I was just watching Yuri's production of 12th Night. I was like, oh, I think that's the next one. I want to fuck with that play.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, I don't want to lose those stories. I don't want to lose what they do. I just want to be in conversation with them. So I learned that they can withstand jostling.
Yeah.
They can withstand not following the rules.
Yes. What's a rule?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Probably more, but
yeah. I love that. Thank you. And now we have a monologue reading. I just want to say that James writes these fantastic monologues. When I saw Kill Move Paradise in here, I feel like there's always at least one monologue that is going to completely wipe you out by the end because it's so beautifully crafted. This is probably that monologue in this piece. So to read it for us is Anthony Martinez-Briggs. Anthony played the character of T.O. in the movie, and he is reprising his role in the production in the fall.
Now, I just got my book, so I didn't get to highlight it. So, like, let me preface this story by saying that I get high. Y'all know that. Can I get an amen? Yeah. All right. Follow me. Imagine you're me. And you got one of them VR headsets. Not the cheap one. You got one of them really good ones with the 2 controllers. And you put this headset on and you pick up this game. In the game, you have to throw these snowballs at a gingerbread man. Yeah, I know. I thought it was weird too. But I'm trying to live my life from a place of allowance. So I receive what I'm getting. Feel me? Okay, moving on. When the snowballs hit the gingerbread man, he breaks apart. But at the same time, the gingerbread man is throwing snowballs at you as well. And when you break the gingerbread man completely up, another one pops up and starts throwing snowballs at you. You can't let your guard down. And it occurred to me that that's what life is like, right? But like, this is virtual reality. You feel me? And them little gingerbread men are everywhere. You gotta move around. You gotta keep your eye on your back, your front, side to side. That's not in there. And if you play with someone else, you gotta watch their back too. Just like Then you start looking around and you go, man, somebody set up in this room or the office and they imagined this. And they didn't just imagine a flat idea of a world. No, they came up with everything. Like what the sconces look like, the area rugs, the banisters, and the gingerbread man's frosting. But I am getting ahead of myself. And maybe you a little more high than you planned. And you get hella emotional when you get high.
God.
So you start crying.
Oh God.
Like that good cry where your shoulders start shaking. Then the gingerbread man sort of like sees you. Like the gingerbread man's face gets this look of deep consternation. And the gingerbread man starts talking to you. He's like, hey, brother. What's got you so ho-hum? And you don't really know. So you start crying harder. And you start to feel really embarrassed. And you can't tell whether this is that good weed or some of that scary lace weed. All getting kind of surreal, and you feel like you're getting higher and higher, and there is no end in sight. And then the gingerbread man reaches out with what's left of his arm, because you knock his arm off with a snowball. And you take his little blown off gingerbread nub, and pulls you in, and kisses you. Right? I know, it's wild. And you like, whoa, this is the gingerbread man. I like gingerbread ladies. But it feels good. So you keep going. Then the gingerbread man goes down on you. I know. And you're like, whoa! It's the gingerbread man. Oh, my gingerbread lady fellatio's. But again, it feels great. It feels like you are literally grinding on a warm batch of chocolate chip. The room starts to smell like Krispy Kreme donuts. And before you know it, you shoot your frosting all over the gingerbread man's face. You're like on a whole new level of being. Your third eye is all open, and you start to see better.
Oh God.
You're not crying no more.
Mm.
And you begin to consider what your life would be like if you chose pleasure over harm. Yeah. You consider what that world can be like. Like, what if you imagine the world differently? I mean, as far as we know it, we are in the only place in the cosmos that welcomes our particular brand of life. Why waste your time being miserable because it's going to make somebody else happy? See, if you can find out how to be happy for yourself, you know that's a big realization to have after you come. You decide right then to stop accepting what has always been. And just like that, your buzz is starting to wear off and you start to build in your mind what your world is going to look like. You decide that gingerbread man blowjobs are definitely going to be a big part of your new life. I don't know who needed to hear that, but yeah.
So I was sitting beside my mother on opening night on Broadway. And the actor that did it in New York, his name was Chris Herbie Holland. Very similar type person to you, friend. Y'all could be cousins. But he finishes this monologue, and my mother just leans over to me and she goes, James. I'm like, you've seen that? She was like, that was like a year ago. It's still there? I'm like, yeah.
Oh, I love that monologue so much. This monologue so cleverly encapsulates one of the major themes that this piece explores, and that is sort of a like cycles of violence juxtaposed with ideas of softness and queerness through a very clear lens of Blackness. What juiced you up about exploring these two areas with this work? Were there any hesitations about discussing and exploring anything dealing with this subject matter, or was anything difficult to explore with this?
No, I mean, I was really kind of excited to sort of mess with modalities of masculinity, and I was really excited to like push against all of that stuff. It almost felt safer to have it be a gingerbread man in a video game than to have like, you know, Tio actually say like, well, you know, sometimes I look at a guy and I'm like, he's handsome, and I have a feeling about that. And like, I feel like more people have that experience than they're willing to admit. Because I'm gay and I look at women all the time and I'm like, well, the right set of circumstances. Yeah, absolutely. And like, that teaches me something about the whole world, because if I can have that experience, because I'm very much a homosexual, if I can still feel that, then that means that there are probably other people that feel that way too. And that, you know, I come from a family of very affectionate people. And the world isn't really like that. Like, I hug people, like I have uncles that will like kiss me on the side of my head, like that kind of tenderness I grew up with. And then in the world, that's just not really very available to you unless you cultivate it. And so I wanted to show, like, Tio is the soft boy of the show, and he like feels all that stuff really deeply. You know, he, the tenderness between him and Juicy is so beautiful. It's like they take care of each other. And I don't know, I wanted to show that. I wanted the conflict to not be, you're too close to me, or I feel uncomfortable when you touch me. I wanted the conflict to be, well, my uncle killed my dad. You know, what am I gonna do about that? I can be as soft as I want inside of that journey of discovering how I'm going to deal with it. And so it just was an interesting trick. Trick is probably not the most sophisticated word, but you know, on some level, I think that plays operate a little bit like magic tricks.
Absolutely. I think that the point that you made earlier about the power of laughter and what that can do when you bring people together through laughter, you can sort of deliver anything you want through it, you know? Well, you do that very cleverly.
So I laughter and weeping physiologically looks the same in the body. Like, the body kind of does the same thing. So when you make people laugh, you can say something into the void of that cavity that is created by the laughter that they wouldn't hear normally. And I think the same is true when you make people weep. It offers you the opportunity to say something. You know, there's a lot of plays that I feel like are beautiful or really smart, and I'm like leaving and I go, well, I don't know what they're saying. And I guess not every play needs to say something, you know. I don't know what Noises Off is saying, but I have a great time every time I see it. So
nice. So this monologue, clearly one of my favorite pieces of this play. Here's a little ditty for you. Do you have a favorite part of the play? Section, line? What do you love in it?
My favorite scene is the scene between Juicy and Larry when they're alone, and Larry makes, so a scene earlier or two, Juicy has this scene with his mom, and she's like, I gotta make your daddy a plate. And she's like basically saying, you show people love by feeding them. You make someone a plate out of love. It's not out of obligation. It's not because it's your responsibility. You do it out of love. And then Juicy's just had this whole meltdown right after this scene, after the charade scene. He comes back in and Larry has made a plate of food for him. And he says, "You made this for me?" He goes, "Yeah." Eat. You didn't eat. And Juicy says, "Huh, kindness." And it's like, oh, wow, he lives in a world where he doesn't experience kindness often. He probably experiences a lot of like affection and probably experiences a lot of like, you know, niceness, but not a lot of kindness. And so I love that scene. I think it's that whole speech that Larry has about being his mirror and what he sees in him. And I was at closing night, the closing performance, and Andre Deschelles was sitting like a row behind me. And do we know Andre Deschelles, the original Wiz and the Wiz? He was the original in Hades Town. He played, what's his face? Hermes, yes, thank you. There's this moment where Larry says, "Can I be your mirror?" And I hear Andre go, "All right now." Like that.
Yes.
I was like,
Yes.
if I dropped dead right now, I would like be smiling.
Yes.
Like this giant of the theater who like felt so seen by something that I had written. And night after night, like, you know, the number of times we'd be watching that scene and Larry says, "I want to kiss you." And someone in the audience would say, "Do it." Oh God, I love that so much. I mean, my first theater is the church. So like, I'm not afraid of like call and response. I'm not afraid of the audience who speaks to what's happening on stage. Shakespeare's day, like, you know, they don't like Titus Andronicus, boo, tomato, tomato, tomato. Like there's no manicured audience in the way that we have it. It's much more mercurial. And that scene, more than any other scene, except for maybe the stuff with Tidra. People really like Tidra. But that scene in particular, the number of people who came up to me and were like, "Thank you for that."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have one more question, and then we're going to open it up for you all to ask James some questions. So, not surprisingly, there are many, many theaters producing Fat Ham this coming season. How do you view, what's your take on like directorial interpretation of this piece? There are some things in the version that I read that are left pretty open. Have you heard of, or have you had any impressions about how the work is being, you know, presented? And then as a follow-up to that, is there anything that you don't want these creative teams to miss out on?
Okay, so the first question, I've heard nothing.
Okay.
I have no idea how people are going to do this play. Like, none.
Okay.
And I like that.
Okay.
You know, I've been fortunate enough that I have been able to see multiple productions of a few of my plays. Kill Move is, up until now, that's about to very quickly change, has been my most produced play. So I've seen maybe 5 productions of that over the years. And they're all wildly different. And I love that. I remember Sarah Rule saying she went to go see a production of Eurydice in Germany in German that was utterly unintelligible to her. She couldn't recognize anything of her play. She was like, "I have no idea what I'm watching." And I was like, I can't wait to walk into a theater and I'm just like, no clue, but all right. Like, I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
And I think the responsibility of the director at their best is to extend the theatrical imagination of the play.
Note taken.
Yes. And I leave space intentionally.
Okay.
Like, you have to leave space for your collaborators because, you know, the final big stage direction isn't Larry comes out and does a whole musical number and the whole stage transforms and it's a party. It's the play erupts into a celebration of the feminine. Now, what that means to you is going to be different from what it means to me or what it means to any other director. And that is why we do plays over and over again. So I'm excited to see what people do with it. I don't know that there's anything that I want them to not miss. Like, anything I didn't want them to miss is very clearly, it's this in the play. And then everything else is up for interpretation, debate, extension.
Yeah.
You know, like I always use Saheem Ali directed the productions in New York, and he's a dear, dear friend. We've been collaborating for a long time. He primarily directs musicals, and he actually directed this play almost as if it was a musical, because there's these real moments where the theatrical conceit ruptures and something out of time and space happens. But I don't think that's always going to happen in every production. Was that me? Excuse me. That's not going to happen every production. So I'm really excited to see what people bring to it, because, you know, every artist is different. I can't wait to see all the juicies. The number of young, Black, queer, chubby actors that have been like, hey, where are they doing the play? How do I get an audition? That makes me so happy. And I'm like, here's the list. Have at it. I hope you get them all.
Yes.
You know, so I'm hoping they get it all.
Wonderful. And now, how about some questions from out here? Does anybody have anything that they would like to ask James? Yes.
James, two-parter. As a creator, what are your future aspirations, and how has the Pulitzer gotten closer to achieving it?
Just so that everybody can hear, as a creator, I just forgot.
What are my aspirations moving forward, and how is the Pulitzer?
Creator, I'm just saying in general, maybe it's beyond playwriting.
Yeah, I mean, I want to always write for the theater, and I'm never going to stop writing for theater. I'm always going to be in Philadelphia. Everybody keeps asking me, like, have you left? Are you leaving? I'm like, no. I'm not going to go get a closet in New York. No. Like I might buy a closet in New York and keep my house here so they got somewhere to stay. But that's different. So this will always be my home base. And the big thing I've learned, you know, from working from here is that place for a playwright doesn't matter as much as it used to. And so that's a good thing. My aspirations are kind of big. You know, I wanna move into the TV and film space on my own terms as best I can. And so most of what I've been doing is development in a little TV room staffing, which is fabulous and pays a whole lot of money. Like, whole lot of money. And I can't even imagine when we get out of this strike what that's going to look like, because if I was getting paid that, it's going to be like really good. So I'm very excited about that. But I want to do that work so that I can be more adventurous and bold in the work that I'm doing in the theater. What are my other aspirations? The Pulitzer is weird. The Pulitzer helped in no way in film and TV. They didn't care. In theater, it's sort of like people go, yes, oh, that thing you said is smart, even if I'm like, oh, well, okay, it's smart-ish, but not that smart. The Pulitzer gives you some confidence, though. Like, I'm very much like, I was a little on the fence about whether or not I was pretty good at this until then, and I was like, oh, wait, all right, I might be okay. I think I'm just gonna ride this for a little while. And people say it every time they say your name forever. So it never goes away. Like I was posting all these memes of like beauty queens waving goodbye on the day that they announced, and everyone was like, no, you're never gonna get away from it. But yeah, I wanna continue to expand what I've been doing. So I've been working in the TV writers' room for a TV adaptation of Good Night and Good Luck for AMC that is now frozen because we're on strike. So Good Night and Good Luck. It's about David R. Murrow, the newscaster who took on McCarthyism. But the show takes place maybe about 5 years before that. And it's going to be 3 seasons and 6 episodes a season. And it's just so, it's set in the 50s, which is a bizarre era. Like everybody hated everything about it, but nobody said anything about it. It's amazing. And then I'm working on writing a feature now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes. And
I don't have a question, but this is just a thank you. I'm so moved by the letter that you wrote. And I just sat here thinking of all of the young people who are just hidden. And you have just given them a voice and said, it's okay, come on out, come on out. be who you are. And I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, in the black and white shirt.
I'm struck by the fact that you're so trusting. And whatever anybody wants to do with my play, I don't care. But what if some guy named Santos or something like that
Oh, Jesus.
wanted to make your play into a me thing for anybody who doesn't look like him and his wife and stupid? You know, I mean, you should feel some sort of anger. It's just open up. It's wonderful. I mean, I wish I felt that way about the world. I do sometimes, but just to like turn over what you have created that's so dear to all of us now,
Yeah.
you know, in the world, and what you've done for this, and have somebody like, you know. Like,
Well, I think anything that changes the intentionality of the play, we send a letter and say, stop. So if it's, you know, I'm not talking about the, you know, changing the meaning of the play or the intention of the play, or even like what the play is exploring. Like I'm sure someone could take this script and do something awful with it. But there's guardrails. Like you can't cut the play without asking me, for example. You can't remove anything. What I mean about leaving space is when we get to the end of that play, I want to see how someone imagines what the celebration of the feminine is, because that means something, one thing for me, and it might mean it's gonna mean something else to Amina, and it meant something different to Morgan, and it meant something different to Saheem. And I think that's important to the lifeblood of the art form, is that people keep entering into conversations with these plays over time. I don't know that, you know, Ron DeSantis would do anything to my play. I don't even know that he would be aware that it was happening. It's happening in Miami, so.
Is it?
Yeah, it's gonna be in Miami.
That'll be interesting.
We should sort of like turn it over to people. You know, it's. I remember once really early on, my brother, who lives in one of those bad places, but he's not quite as bad as those other people. He saw online somebody who somehow got an image of me. It was so close. I mean, I'm sure it was protesting against all the good causes, you know,
Yeah.
this thing up there, and it was on the internet, you know, and so I guess maybe I have a very
Yeah. I'm not too worried about it. No, because most people who are wanting to do it, they want to do it. Like they want to do it because they read the play and they love the play. But you know, cease and desist, very effective.
Nice. Over here.
So thank you so much, James, for being here, and Amina as well. James, you've already put so much of yourself and your time and your talent into this piece, and Amina, you're already endeavoring onto that journey to put yourself in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I look upon this room as a coalition of the willing, right? We're here. We're here to celebrate you both. We're here to celebrate this work. And so as this work makes its way onto our stage finally, in what ways can everyone in this room best love, support, and nurture each of you as this work makes its way onto the stage?
You know that thing they say either before and after a show is like, word of mouth is our best friend. It's true. Because more people will go and see a play because their friend said, girl, I went to see this play Thursday night. You got to go see it. That is actually the primary thing that gets people in the door. And it is actually your superpower as an audience member, is to tell as many people, and you have to tell it to them with the urgency of the form, because I don't want to get on the soapbox here. Our industry, and I mean specifically the regional theaters in this country, are in desperate need right now. We need people to show up. We need people to come and see shows. We need people to tell their friends, to drag their husbands, drag their boyfriends, drag their girlfriends. I'm not going to just gender this in one direction. To come and see what we're making. Because it takes time and it's ephemeral and people don't always understand it, but they always appreciate it once they get here. We can build the invitation to the audience as an institution as up to a point, but it really does need the buy-in and the charisma of the people who come to see the play with their communities, expanding our community. So that is the thing that we need. Also, if you happen to be a wealthy person, you should donate to the Wilma Theater or any other theater. No, I'm not biased, but I happen to really like this theater a whole lot. So those are two things you can do, but truly, like talking to people, creating excitement about going to see something. I just went to see Beyonce. Who went to see Beyonce? How much was your ticket? I'm gonna get in your business. How much was your ticket? Okay. How much was your ticket? Okay. This is the range we got here, right? Both of those tickets are more expensive than it is to see something here. And you can see something here, that's a subscription. What you paid to see one little Beyonce concert. I love Beyonce. Beyonce is so important. She's the greatest artist of our generation. I had a blast at the concert, just to be clear. But you also, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not that people don't want to come and see something and be in community, but you have to create something that makes people want to congregate and be in space around it. And we're in a perfect moment. Most people don't go to church. They desperately need collective effervescence. Like, we desperately need it, right? Or most people don't have that as a part of their, it's not one of their spaces that they're in. And this is so powerful to make people think, to make people consider, to frighten people, to make people uncomfortable, all things that are necessary for a good citizenry. It's another thing about the theater that I think is important. It's no mistake that the Western theater happens in the same place, begins in the same place that democracy does. Because there's a connection between being a good citizen and being an active participant in the theater. Those things, I believe, actually do go hand in hand. Sorry, I feel like I'm directing it all at you, but it's because of Olivia glasses. That's the stuff. What you think?
I would say, particularly for this production, a way to support while spreading the word about the production is to also allow yourself to be open when you come to see the production. Allow yourself, come willing and ready to have an experience when you come to see the production. One of the things that directorially I gravitate toward is the expansion of the narrative for Black people in this country. That's one of the things that James does really, really well. He tells stories that I've never seen on a stage before. And so with that comes the responsibility for all of us to be open to receive the story that we get, because it's going to be different from what we're used to seeing. You know, it's a different experience. So for me, the support would look like coming open to say, okay, well, what is this? I'm ready for it. What you got for me? That's a great way to support, I think.
Yeah. Right on.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Jasmine. I just graduated from Howard.
Yes, Howard. Yay.
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 My question was, what advice would you give to your younger self about writing, about the arts in general, and also who are some of your greatest inspirations as an artist?
First off, Howard University, one of the great institutions of theatrical education in this country.
Yeah.
It is an incredible place to learn to be a theater artist. So I'm very happy for you. You didn't have to go all over DC to get your degree. No shade to Morehouse. The question is, what advice would I give to a person who's just starting out as a writer. And then what was the other? There was another part of. And who are my greatest inspirations? So the advice I would say, read as many plays and things about how people write plays as possible, except for The Art of Dramatic Writing. Don't read that play. Don't read that book. Just don't. It's too rigid. It's too many rules. I personally love The Secret Life of Plays. I think that book is very great. But read as many plays as you can, see as many plays as you can, see opera. Specifically see opera, because I think they've figured something out about how to galvanize a weird mix of people into their spaces that theater hasn't quite figured out yet. But everything I see in the opera space is really exciting. Be idle. I know you feel like you have to go, but you actually do need time to like daydream. Drink water, sleep, have sex before you get married. I think it's actually important. I think it's real. What else would I say? Watch TV, because it's probably what you're going to end up doing a lot of. And we're in a golden age of it. I think the best dramatic writing that's happening right now is all on television. It's because it's a bunch of playwrights writing it. So see what they're doing. I think that's really important. Who are my inspirations? Susan Lloyd Parks, very early on, stole my heart, and she hasn't quite let go of it. I met her, she was sitting behind me at the time. Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Right there. Who else? I mentioned Arthur Miller, Lorraine Hansberry. Raisin in the Sun is a perfect play. I love that play so much. Oh God, who else? Simon Stone, who's a director in the UK, and also Jamie Lloyd, who just did the Doll's House that was on Broadway with Jessica Chastain. Just people who like see it differently. Like, I mean, I walked in, I was like, they're just gonna sit in them chairs and roll around on the stage. That's it. And it was like one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. So like, find the people who give you goosebumps when you read or watch what they're doing. Those are the folks that you need to pay attention to. Read everything, as I said, but like the people that when I read their work or when I see their work, I have a physical reaction to it. Blanca Ziska. Blanca Ziska said once, theater reinforces the notion that we're not alone. I should have that like tattooed on my chest, because I think about it so often. Lucille Clifton, who's a poet who I think has had a really intense impact on me as a writer. Milo Forman, the filmmaker, who did Ragtime and yes, just like wild and lush and lusty and full of life, and just find the people that are like speaking your language. And those are some of the folks for me. Issa Rae, she's very funny. Martin Lawrence has had an indelible impact on my sense of humor. It's all through this play.
Lawrence,
the physical comedy on that 90s sitcoms, the physical comedy on those shows, we're so afraid of that now, and everything's like a mockumentary. It's like nobody's just like, yes, there's audience there, so you cannot fuck up. Like do the lines. But Martin had a real impact on what I think is funny, and because I write humor a lot, I come back to his rhythms a lot.
I never expected you to say Martin Lawrence, but yes.
I mean, I think your influences should be eclectic, a little chaotic, and like should be recognizable as you. There's something about what you are inspired by that is also about you.
Great. We have time for one more question. Yes. That's a good question. The question was, what did you pay for your Beyonce tickets?
I didn't pay anything. I sat in a box.
Wow.
That's right. I was in a box with chicken fingers. It was nice. Thank you. But I would have paid $900 for my tickets because I'm that serious.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, James, for conversing with us today. And congratulations again on everything.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you all for coming. I believe there are some refreshments over there as well.
Yeah. Where is that
Yes.
happening?
So James will be at the table over here. So if you have a book to be signed,
Fabulous.
say hello.
Great.
I'll be there. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you. You're so cool. Just a box. Come on, get your